I think he's an absolute weapon of an animal.
Hello and welcome along to GG Weekend Watch with myself, Kate Tracey, a suited and booted Dave Young, who is undoubtedly excited about the return of the jumps in at Cheltenham. So he's made the effort for us. And Matty Sutcliffe is joining the fray as well, because Andrew Mount, I think he's on half term or something or other anyway. But Matty is back in as well. So great to have you back on board, and on the back of a really good weekend for us as well. On Champions Day, we gave you 4 of the 6 winners, landed 2 naps in the process. Dave gave a good nod to Kyprios in the opener, but he was really bullish about Kalpana's chances, suggested that she was short enough to drift up was expected. She won in good style, very good horse. So did Charon, though, of course. As told you, he's going to be the best miler in Europe. He managed to get that crown. Gave him as my nap, but also carry the one then in the Balmoral for me as well, who Andrew, of course, also tipped up and won at 14-1. Champion Stakes was, of course, a bit of a shock, 40-1 winner and Matt winning, but Andrew did give us a 25-1 third in Royal Rhyme. So again, pretty good Saturday for us all round. Now we've got Cheltenham, Doncaster, Newbury to go at, Group 1 action at Doncaster. 10 televised races on ITV. So we've got loads to go at, lads. We're going to crack straight on at Cheltenham with the 110 Novices Limited Handicap Chase for your odds and over to mile 4. Now, normally at this point, I welcome in our usual standing in guest, but Matty, I'm sorry. On this occasion, Dave just has to go first. Cheltenham's back for you, Dave.
Cheltenham is back. It's back for everybody. The ties come back out. The one tie that I can find at the moment. But yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? Some real good racing. Obviously, we're covering the Saturday stuff, 10 races to get through. So I'll keep waffle to a minimum. Some decent stuff on the Friday as well. But we do kick off with a good race here, this Novices Handicap Chase. There is 2 that I had on my radar. One was Bob Ricard, John Joe O'Neill and John Joe O'Neill Jr. The one thing I don't like about this horse is that it went handicap chasing, won nicely, went up to a mark of 1-2-4, and then they decided to go back to hurdles for handicapping. So that makes me think they realised the mark was too high. So had the horse that had continued chasing, I probably would be putting up in here, but I won't. The one that I will go for, though, which is, I mean, you're going to need a big heart and deep pockets to follow this one in, but it is Weveallbeencaught, who's now switched to Christian Williams. Was a horse that's just never won since his maiden hurdle victory. At that point, he looked like he could be quite a nice type. And I remember last year at Cheltenham when Sam Twiston-Davies chose to ride this horse over Broadway Boy when they went up against Florin Porter. He was only a few lengths behind Florin Porter. And although that's like a tenuous line of like form now, considering that he's blown out on so many starts, he was all right last time out behind Hometown Boy. He travelled with him up until sort of the last fence, looked very much like a prep run. That wasn't a handicap race. That was a novice chase where Mark wouldn't have been affected, but was a good enough effort on the comeback. He is down now to a mark of 128. So with the little sprinkles of form that he's got somewhere in the book, that looks criminally low if he wants to get on with it. Now, the change of scenery might be the key to him. He's got cheap pieces on for the first time. As I say, he's had that prep run as far as I'm concerned from last time, which I think can be upgraded because it was his first run. He can go well fresh, but I think he would have needed it. So he's 10-1 top price at the moment, 4 places up for grabs. I'm really hoping that Weveallbeencaught can finally get another win under his belt.
He promised to be so special, didn't he, early on in his career? I thought he was going to be an absolute worldie, the size and the scope of him as well, but it just hasn't worked out like that, has it? So potentially the change of scenery for Weveallbeencaught, can see him getting back to winning ways. 10-1 shot for Dave. Matty, we have got Jazzy Matty in here. Are you going to side with him as a tenuous name link or not?
No, I'm not. Before I briefly get on with that, I'm annoyed that you've mentioned Jazzy Matt, because I remember I was there at the Cheltenham meeting for the Fred Winter. My dad backed him. I didn't have a single penny on. I think I had Metamorphosis Paul Nolan. So cheers for getting that one out of the way early anyways. Yeah, no.
Welcome back.
Excited to be back anyways. It's been a while, so it's rather fitting that I'm reappearing on this week, and might be like a rusty old chaser who might need a prep run over hurdles to get him going. But yeah, it's a lovely chase to get started off with here. Guardy Dream won on his chase debut last time out, and has definitely got to be considered for last year's winning connections. And I think any novice who can jump around Warwick like that merits consideration. I think it is quite a tricky test of jumping, particularly down the back as well. I'd be surprised if top weight Will Karma can go close. Look at his wins have come around Cartmel, Taunton, Perth, Kempton. So he's got a preference for either sharp tracks, flat tracks, or I'll definitely go right-handed. Duffmore Bay would be one of interest. Stoutly bred future chaser by Milan at the JP McManus owned Fleming's Firth mare. the family with the Close Brothers handicap win a few years ago too. Like the race last season for Emma Lavelle, it was didn't quite get going in the middle part of the season either, and chasing was always going to be his game. I'd be all over Lord of Thunder for the Tizzards if the ground wasn't on the better side. I mean, look how he won at Wincanton last time, pulled an absolute cart, and but I think he will probably need this one too. The one that I do like quite a bit with a race fitness on his side is Marv Markle for Henry de Bromhead. I just think he'll relish this course, this old course. You want something that's going to be prominent. You want something that's quite a bit sharp as well. You look at that ride he was given at Kilbeggan last time out. It went about 5 lengths clear, 7 lengths clear. Just made all on chase debut. Jumped every single. Feels like an absolute seasoned chaser. And I think he'll be fine going left-handed. I know his last 2 wins have come right-handed. He won his point-to-point going left-handed. And it's by Weston out of Oscar May, was placed in a Group 2 over fence himself. So he's bred for chasing, and I think he'll have a good future.
6-1 shot in here, Marv, Michael, but a good shout for some of those then at bigger prices as well. A good case is made all round. Right, we're going to head to Doncaster now for the 130. The listed prospect stakes for the 2-year-olds over 6 furlongs. 100 to 30 the field in this one, but it's not as though we've got a massive field to go at, so it just looks super competitive, Matty.
Yeah, it's a bit of a damp squid going from this race at Cheltenham to this one at Doncaster. It's almost like having PE then going to master it after, isn't it? It's not a particularly good race, if I'm honest with you, for the future. Only 3 of the last 10 winners have won a race between them since. 4 races between them since. It's not a race that you want. Sorry, my dog's went absolutely mentally. I think she's on the favourite, isn't she? It's not a race that particularly throws up a nice horse. As a 3-year-old, particularly one that wins it. I mean, you look at some of the sides in this race that won it: Camacho, Six Icon, Ribchester, Uncle Oak, Celebration, Mason, Bohemian Bounces. It's not. You don't get a very well-bred 2-year-old who'll go on to be a good 3-year-old winning this race, and you don't get many decent horses who win this race, like who make the debuts like in the last month either. Bounty, Arctic Voyage, Fast Track, Harry, they all made the debuts in September. I think they will be nice 3-year-olds, and so I do think that you might want something who's a bit precocious, already shown some form this season, and Bellota for John Ryan and Ossie Murphy are the ones I think to be on. Came from quite an unfavourable position in Rio and beating the 4 lengths in Cornwallis last time out, finishing second in his group of 8. And I think the step up back to 6 will suit as well, who just beat a neck by a Powerful Glow in the Mill Reef. I think that's some decent form as well. Would love the soft ground, and I think he's got a decent outsider's chance.
12-1 shot as well in here, and those fast time blinkers to be fitted with experience on side as Matty goes to chuck his dog yet another sock to try and distract her as best as possible. Yeah, and as Matty said there, Dave, going from PE to maths, it was always rubbish, wasn't it? I was going to say a worse word then. It was always rubbish, isn't it? Whenever you had a lesson after PE that you had to go and sit in a classroom again. This is definitely PE to maths for you.
Yeah, I mean, I like maths. I'm a data analyst by trade, so I like to go into maths after PE. And you can see I'm a heftier gentleman, so maybe I didn't enjoy PE as much.
Maybe it was the opposite for you then, yeah.
No, we all love PE, and we all love that Cheltenham is PE. This race is like, as Matty said, it's not necessarily one for the winner, potentially for something being like a special type going forward. When Matty was talking about his dog in there as well, I thought he was thinking of the same horse as me, because Diego Ventura has got his own ideas about how to do things. Threw his jockey off, I think, first time up when he went down on debut, then was slow out the stalls. Next time out, when he'd been picked up by Wafnan Racing, was slow out the stalls again, but still went and won. And then last time, stepped up in trip, but it's going to be the word ACOM. I'm going to put an ACOM counter, I think, somewhere on the screen, because it's the Waco kid he ran behind last time. Over 7 furlongs. He was slow away again, but he's managed to win twice from being slow away. So that wasn't the reason he got beat. I just think that he didn't really stay the trip. That was a Group 3. He's coming back here now to 6 furlongs in listed company. So it's a much easier race. He's clearly got more ability than he's shown so far. And I think what he's already done to date would be enough to win this. So the 3-1, I mean, he's 130 top price, but we'll say 3-1 for the purpose of it being a round number. The 3-1 about him looks more than fair. And I fully expect the dog Diego to go and win this.
Talking of dogs. Yeah, so Diego Ventura, 133-1, like you say, then for that listed contest at Doncaster. Right, the 145 at Cheltenham. Novices hurdle, 4-year-olds and over 3 miles. So these novices that are proper stayers already in their career. Now, we haven't got a big field to go at in this one. We've only got the 5 runners, Dave. So how'd you play it?
Well, you just bet Willie's when it comes to Cheltenham, didn't you? And he's got one coming over here, Fine Margin, who they definitely had higher hopes than him running in a novice hurdle at Cheltenham over 3 miles at the October meeting. He ran at like 3 miles. I think not the last time he ran at Aintree as well, didn't he? But he ran the last time at 3 miles when he ran well was at Haydock in the Stayers handicap hurdle behind the late Slate Lane. And he ran really well that day. That was off a similar-ish mark, maybe a few pounds lighter. But you would have thought a season on from now, he would be much higher rated than 130. Now, he has pulled up a couple of times. Twice that he has pulled up have both been when it's been soft ground. He's 3 from 3 on good ground. So I think there is a case to be made that now he's back on good ground. That might be the key to unlock him. He's looked a little bit headstrong and a little bit like he's got his own ideas about it, like Diego Ventura from the last race. But I do think he's got loads of ability. Now, Intense Approach is another sort of good ground merchant. He did jump quite nicely in that Persian War, but it was a weak Persian War. He was never really threatening. And as much as he jumped all right there, he has made mistakes in the past. So I think, although they're both 130 rated, Fine Margin is a much, much better horse. I'm surprised the horse isn't favourite. Expect he probably can do it. Millforce looks like a summer jumper to me, so we might get some of these horses that can just about get away with it. Has a good attitude, does stay the trip, but I would be desperately disappointed if he was the best of the bunch in here. So I'll go with Willie Mullins and Fine Margin.
Yeah, it's always a good way to go, isn't it? And you're getting 6 to 1 as well about Fine Margin. 2 horses shorter than him in the betting at present. Matty, who'd you like?
Yeah, I take Dave's case about Fine Margin, but I'm fairly sure he's going to be targeted that 3 mile race at Haydock that was second last season. The Group 3 handicap behind Slate Lane, who was obviously ill-fated later on. I know he's still £6 higher, but it could drop a couple of pounds after this race and go for that again. And I'm not too sure. He doesn't particularly like to target this meeting either, does he, Willie Mullins? So although it will be folly of me to take the Master on, I will do in this case. Dave gave him a good mention of Intense Approach. I think he's got to be considered. Was beaten by an impressive animal of the Persian War last time out. And this step back up in trip and better ground as well, that'll suit massively. But the one I am keen on is Millforce for Cromwell. I think he's a really, really smart starting prospect who'll make a lovely future chaser in time. You look at his record at Cheltenham, I mean, 53 runners in the last 5 seasons, 13 winners, 26 places, £28.69 to a £1 stake. Narrow that down to non-handicap hurdles, and he's 4 from 11 with 7 places as well. So he does target these kind of meetings. He was second in this race of Antrim Coast last season, beaten by Butch, who will be a good grade animal for him for this season. By the 2010 Derby and Arc winner Workforce, overcame adversity on hills. watch back that race at Bellota. You'll never see this horse running over a sharp track again. Like, he's the leggiest thing you've seen. He's a future chaser, and they had him around Bellews Town first time up over hurdles. I mean, there's no chance we'll see him like that again. But a testament to his ability that was able to kind of draw away at the last and go clear, beating 2 subsequent winners. And then he was a good second to Willie Mullins' Lucky Place, I think it was, might be a different horse. Progressive stay for Willie Mullins, just beating on the head bob. And I think he was only pointing in May, so he's kind of still jumping his hurdles like a chaser. And I think Cromwell's just kind of getting his brain to reconnect with his feet and jump hurdles a bit slower and a bit lower even. So I do think at Millforce he can go from the front. If he's jumping just stand up, I think he could win quite cosily and be a lovely starting prospect this season.
Hopefully a staying prospect and a staying chaser then in time as well, but still learning about things. Millforce at present 4 to 1 shot in here right now. If our last Cheltenham race to Doncaster was going from PE to maths, I don't know what this is going to be, going from PE to maybe drama class where it's ever so slight chaos, perhaps a bit of a waste of time. Not entirely sure. 205 at Doncaster, 0 to 105 handicap, 3 rods and over 5 furlongs. 6 to 1 the field for drama class for you, Matty.
This is getting chucked into isolation unit, isn't it? You just don't want to be there. There's no point at all. But I have actually got a designer for Butler and Spencer on my column. I'm sure they've been aiming at this mare at something, and I'm fairly sure it will with this race. She was second in it off £6 higher 2 years ago, and she just shaped this season. Like I'm sure she's had issues. She was off the track all season until 2 starts ago when beating that race, which she's won twice of late at York. She had a win done in May, so I presume there has been some issues, especially with the tongue tie on us too as well. But she came back to form quite well at Haydock. She came there with a winning run, and just probably on the wrong part of the track. Within the first 4 home afterwards, came up the far side of the centre. And I think if she is cherry ripe for this, then this will be the one that they aim her at, and I think she'll go close to winning. I will give a good mention to Jared Batt, who was a head of designer at Haydock. He was given a very eye-catching ride at York. over 6 furlongs. Travelled really well, didn't really have much room in running. And I think the drop back in trip will suit that one. And also Pilgrim as well, who won the 3-year-old handicap at Royal Ascot. I think he's a fairly big price. He bolted up a soft ground at Musselburgh, so I don't think that'll be a problem. He was on the favourite by his nearside pitch at York at the Ebor meeting, and probably didn't stay 6 furlongs at Ayr last time out. So the drop back to trip, I think drop back to trip will suit. It should be fit enough now after 61-day break and 2 runs. Designer will be the main player, but we'll have another each way on Pilgrim.
Have a little bit of an each way on Pilgrim, but Designer at 16-1, the main play for Matty. Dave, who'd you like?
I like Matty's one. I like Designer, and I agree with what Matty said. Obviously, she won that Fillies Heritage Handicap the last 2 years at York, but it came back in that race after a significant break. As Matty touched on, she had the wind surgery as well, but she obviously wasn't ready for that. She didn't run any sort of race. She wasn't really very strong in the market either, but she's obviously a very capable horse. And as Matty touched on, second in this race with a £6 higher mark a couple of years ago. They've obviously brought her back with this race in mind. Jamie Spencer up top, and the Haydock run as well last time. She ran at Haydock once before in listed company, and she was outpaced there as well. I think Haydock was probably just too fast a track for her, which sounds mad when it's a 5 furlong type race, but she ran really well. She kept going through to the line, so she's definitely using that as a stepping stone for this. She's 14-1 or maybe 16-1 in places. I think she'll go off a lot shorter than that, so definitely having a play on Designer. But also, I've got to have a little go on Aberama Gold, because Doncaster form's incredible. Heavy win at 5 furlongs here a little while back. Now, it's not going to be as bad as that, but he took this race 12 months ago off a £13 higher mark. He's run all right his last few starts as well. The York run that sandwiched in between his sort of last 3 runs, he was just drawn on the wrong side. Last time he ran behind Blue Storm and he's £6 better off, was only a couple behind that one. And then the run, a few runs back, was behind Vintage Clarets, or maybe it's the other way around, Vintage Clarets. And then it's £3 better off with him. So look, he's handicapped to run a good race. He's priced accordingly. He's 7-1 at the moment, but with a few places up for grabs, he'd be on the shortlist too. So Aberama Gold and Designer.
Designer, so you two both in agreement about her, but Aberama Gold, of course, last year's winner of this race, Dave also likes. My main play was going to be the Bell Conductor in this one. I'm also having a bit of a saver on Wolverhampton in here, but the Bell Conductor, I'm not a biggest fan of his draw. It's very middly. I feel like you want one extreme or the other in this race, either the low or the high, but the race that he ran in last time out is such a key race going into this one. And if you finish about mid-division in that 6 furlong York Heritage Handicap, it can pay dividends going into this race on your next start. He was beaten over 6.5 lengths, ridden prominently on that occasion. But again, he was a big price for that. You go back to his Chester success prior to it, and it just looks as though he's got plenty more left in the locker in terms of his handicap mileage. Right, we're going to head back to Cheltenham again for the 220 handicap chase. 4-year-olds and over 3 mile 1. Broadway Boy heads the market currently at 7-2 in this one, but a competitive looking race. And which one of these, Dave, is going to be fit and sharp enough to do themselves justice first time up?
Well, I mean, it's worth £50,000, so you'd sort of expect that most of them should be trying, but it is early start of the season. Some of them will be using it as a prep, so I guess there's a bit of guesswork to try and figure out who's doing what. Broadway Boy will definitely be here trying on song and going full whack at it. Good ground will suit the horse. He's a bit of a tricky one, really, because I quite liked him for this race. He was bigger in the week, so I say obviously, but he was bigger in the week, even though it hasn't cut up that much. 7-2 about him now feels awfully tight when he won that race and he beat 3 under through 5, I think it was, handicap in December. Melina Girl for Gavin Cromwell, he was entered but not declared for this race, fell 3 out, and I think she would have beat him that day. So as much as it's winning form off of a £3 lower mark, he's hardly well handicapped off a 149, but he definitely could be good enough to win this one. I've sort of gone back and forth on him, but I'm going to leave him alone for this race. Some Scope frustrates me. Carl Hinchy horse, they're obviously setting it up for something. I bet it at Cheltenham in April last year. He just didn't really seem to be able to go the gallop. Traded quite short in running, stayed on, but the fact that the last twice now he's been beat, and from like a few runs back, he looked like one of the best handicapped horses in the country. They'll have their eye on something. I just don't know whether it's this, but like I say, it's 50 grand up for grabs. Hopefully it will go well, but I'll keep an eye on Some Scope through the season. I'm just not sure in this like class of company. He's got sort of 140s and 150s horses to go at. I think they might just be too good for him. Lemilos is interesting. Obviously won a Hennessy and then comes back in here, but the one that I might take a bit of a swing at, it was kind of between 2 that are like national types. Vanillier, they've sort of said, Gavin Cromwell said that he's not bothering with the national with the horse anymore. And as I say, had Melina's go as an entry. Vanillier comes here off of a 148 handicap mark, a track that he clearly likes. good ground will suit him as well. I think he's got a proper chance, but I am just going to side with the other Irish runner, Senior Chief, for Henry de Bromhead. First time cheap pieces, was sent off just 10-1, I think it was, for the Irish Grand National last year. Didn't do anything that day, pulled up, but they obviously thought a lot about the horse to do it in the first place. And as much as they could be saving this horse for like a bigger day later down the line, he sort of fluffed these lines last time. £50,000 up to the winner. As Matty's already touched on, Henry de Bromhead sends horses over here with every chance of running well. So I'd probably just side with Senior Chief, but wouldn't be a strong fancied race, but it does look like a good one to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating one, isn't it? Senior Chief, though, is a 7-1 shot in here. But yeah, when you look at the likes of Vanillier, he's a 22-1 shot. We know the back class that he has, but he's relatively unfancied then in this one. But yeah, loads of prices to go at as much as anything else, Matty, in here. And horses that are really going to divide opinion, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic race. Just on some scope that Dave's touched on, I think that race, that Grimthorpe second, completely bottomed him. The conditions are absolutely treacherous. I was on Charlie Uberala's. Just the amount of rain they had at Doncaster that day was insane. I think overnight as well. And I just think that race at Doncaster probably bottomed him for the race afterwards. But I do think that off a mark of, what's he on, 126, I think he's got stacks in hand, some scope. But I'm not going to put him off this race. I do think he'll need a run. I think his last two seasonal debuts beating 30 and 12 lengths. So it might just be one that just wants a run. Broadway Boy, again, dropping back in the handicap company for the first time since winning the Group 3 here last season. That was on the new course, but he has got form on the old course, bolted up at this meeting, and it was second to Flooring Port. It was second to Flooring Port at this meeting, then bolted up in the November meeting. And so I think for the informed Twiston team, it'll go well. Lemilos is another interest, goes well fresh and is versatile ground-wise. Does he know is interesting, but I just think they'd be mad to win here and blow his mark for the Jewson handicap that he won last year off 152, second time up after wind-up. So surely that is the aim, and if that is the aim, I think if anyone wants to get on early anti-post when it does open up, I'd recommend a good bet there. Senior Chief is annoying because I really wanted to bat him for this race, and as Dave said, like, it's because he's so well handicapped behind the likes of Gaelic Warrior. I know the way you're thinking, Manila Kakuna. Off a mark of 142, he could do some serious damage. I just think he wants deep ground. Like, I couldn't have him on this sounder surface, and weather will be ready, and it'll just be all happen too quickly for him first time up. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to pass over him. Pepe Lemoko's interesting. He'll be a very good chaser for Jay Williams this season. The yard was riddled with the rapeseed infection last season, wasn't it? And none of them were right at all. Sadly, I think they are over the worst of that now. Ran a good race in 0-150 company at Kempton in February before being put away, presumably due to those issues. He's a big son of Sander Sant, who they do quite well with. Think of San Segal. We won't talk about San Segal. There's still questions as to whether they'll have him ready first time up, but I think he's one to keep on side with good grounds. Chasing Fire, they obviously thought it was good enough to be in the Supreme a couple of years ago, didn't they? But he's just not beating anything of note over fences, and I actually do think that he'll come back over hurdles this season and turn into a staying prospect. But then I've heard some people say that it's going to be running like County Grand Nationals that have seemed to be run every week. So what do I know? And Canendo Cueto, he's fit from his summer jumping. I do love England's mare, but he's England's going, so it's not from 6 in the one off the 140s. Probably was only beaten 2 lengths off top where Perth last time out. The one I'm going to take a swing on, because I do think there's quite a lot of negatives about the ones at the top of the market, is Kansas City Star for Harry Derham. Now, I just cannot believe it's taken all of his connections this long to get him over 3 miles. He's a massive son of he's a big guy.
Soldier Fortune.
Exactly, Soldier Fortune. And then Soldier Fortune can get decent stayers at early doors, City Chief, Howling Mad Murdoch. And then the Damsar as well, Executive Perks, the Damsar of Conigry, Monksland, Carruthers, all of them are coming to their own of staying trips. And he bolted up in his point-to-point for Colin Bowes, shortly went to Elliott afterwards. And I know that he's got some good form over 2 miles now, finishing second to Astro Diamond over hurdles. But you just look at his pedigree, stamina laden. Now, a lot of these have got some, I know he's got to find some on form with these, but I love the angle of going straight up to 3 miles from 2. He's had the prep run now, and Harry Durham, he knows the time of day, and this frontline style will bode well for the old course. So Kansas City Star.
I'm so pleased you said it. I was waiting when you were going around the other horse. I was like, I know he's not mentioned this lad yet. I'm hoping he's building to something here. Kansas City star for me as well. Like you say, Harry Derham can do no wrong at the best of times, but let alone at present, 40% strike rate the last 2 weeks, 4 from 10 in that time as well. And like I say, I just think the step up in trip for him is going to unlock so much more. I know he's a bit of an OXO horse, like he wins or really disappoints and wilts away quite tamely. But the fact that Kelso run, he made so much of the running. He got the ground that he wanted on good ground. He's going to have those conditions again here that will really suit him. And then he just wilted away. He just thought, well, he's going to come forwards then for that. So, yeah, no, I'm really pleased that he is stepping up in trip here. I think we're going to see the best of him. Hopefully get his conditions, and the Smucker 130. I still think we'll underestimate him. 16-1 for the pair of us too about Kansas City Star. Right, back to Doncaster now for the big one. The Group 1 Futurity Trophy Stakes. 2-year-olds over a mile comes up at 240. Wimbledon Hawkeye 7-2 favourite in here, Matty. So do you side with him or take him on?
I'm going to take him on. I was going to take him on with Matty Bay, who I put up early in the week, but it's not been declared. I think they're going to instead ruin his future classic career in a farmer's field at Senclo instead. So, I mean, Rafe Beckett has not got a lot wrong this season. Obviously, an Arkman and trainer, and this might come out as probably a bit disrespectful. It's no, in no means way to be disrespectful, but what on earth are they doing not sending him here? So, I've not a massively strong opinion on this race anymore. Arrests half brother, detained, has got something quite special in these 2 runs at Kempton. Beat a couple of subsequent winners on debut, including one place and listed company last time out. We'll get onto later on. Then he bolted up on a £7 penalty when making all, and I just thought that if he improves to the switch to turf, he could put up quite a good performance. I did originally like seaplane for this after he won his novice last time out. I don't like it when yards put headgear on a horse for the first time after a win. It just indicates that he's had a problem in the interim, and so I'm going to pass him over. I will play the unbeaten Anno Domini. I was listening to something the other day. I think the Bloodstock agent Martin Coleman said that this horse is one of the best juveniles that Godolphin have. I know that if we all listen to things like that, we'd go skint, but it was something I'd quite I took on board. Now the time off is of minor concern, but he won fresh on debut, and then he won at Sandown over 7 furlongs, carrying a penalty, given £5 to win. Was it Winlord? I think it was. Who won well next time out. Was only beaten a length by Hot as Hell at the group, the current Group 2. Now I know that he's got £17 to find with Wimbledon Hawkeye, but that form with Winlord would put him on a mark of say 110, given that he beat him well, carrying £5 more. Connections won this race last year with Ancient Wisdom. I do think this mile Triple E got further improvement from the son of Newbury, who should love the ground.
Anno how do you say his name? Anno Domini.
Anno Domini, I think.
Gotcha in the end there. Don't know why that took me forever to try and pronounce that one. Yeah, but son of Newbury anyway, wearing the blue. 8-1 shot in this one, and 2 from 2 in his career so far. But like I say, that bit of a layoff to have to overcome. Dave, who'd you like for the Group 1?
Well, I said the ACOM count is going to be up, so the word ACOM is going to be mentioned a few more times, and another ACOM being said here because Wimbledon Hawkeye, we obviously ran behind the line in winter, bumped into an absolute weapon of a horse. But that form, right? I know it's a Group 3, but that's like I think it's going to be some of the best form that's going to stand out into next season as well. He went and won next time out, didn't he, at Newmarket? Now, he started to idle a little bit in front, but it's because he was just a little bit lonely. As soon as the horse in second, I think the Royal Playwright came near to him, he started to go again as well. So he proved it that it wasn't a fluke in that ACOM, and it wasn't because of the draw, it wasn't because of any bias. He won nicely. He is the highest rated in this race. He is definitely the one that they've all got to go and beat. It's interesting that James Doyle mentioned about this Anno Domini, that he's sat on it at home, and he said that he is actually quite a bit of a weapon. So to give a horse like that a mention's obviously quite telling. But this is going to be no slower ground than it was at Newmarket last time. I'd get worried if there was more rain about. I think it will be similar-ish conditions. I think Wimbledon Hawkeye does set the standard. Hot as Hell, me and Andrew put up for the Beresford Stakes last time out, did win cosily, but I don't think it was much in behind. I know Matt is correctly saying about his selection that it's got form lines at time with a horse that was second behind Hot as Hell, and it can read nicely that way. But I don't think they were that much in behind. So Hot as Hell's obviously got a chance, but I think has probably got about as much as the ratings would suggest to find on this one. Delacroix's the fly in the ointment, because last time we were all, I say all sort of against him, we were a bit negative on him. Market was strong for him. It was all hands and hills under Ryan Moore, but he was very similar to his run prior, where he was off the gas early and he had to be ridden for a long time, but he never looked like he wasn't going to get there. And then on, like at the line, he was well on top. So I guess I'm just a little bit scared in this race that Wimbledon Hawkeye, I think, will travel nicely. He'll enjoy having a horse next to him, but I wonder whether Delacroix might just grind it past him. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to have a bet in the race, but I definitely would be saying that Wimbledon Hawkeye is my idea of the winner.
Yeah, it's going to take all the beating, isn't he? And I hope so as well. For all that, I love Hot as Hell, and he did me a right turn that last day. But yeah, Wimbledon Hawkeye, though, I still just think, like I say, that form line is just the best thing on offer by quite a distance, and hopefully that will be confirmed. Right, back to Cheltenham now for the 255. The P word is back. We're so happy when the P word is back. The Thames Network Handicap Hurdle Qualifier. 4-year odds and over 3 miles, 9-2 the field. But of course, Dave, we have different rulings for the qualifiers this time around. So is that going to make a difference, or are you still just trying to find a horse that might still run into a place?
Well, it might do, mightn't it? Because it's winning you're in now, as long as you're rating high enough. And obviously, before it used to be sixth, you'd watch the fast finishing sixth, didn't you? Then it was the fast finishing fourth, but that hasn't really worked out since they changed the rules. If you look at it like historically, when it's only a handful to go in there. So I don't know. And I feel like this early in the season as well, I don't think it really matters if you were to win a qualifier, because you got the rest of the season to hide if you want to move the mark about. So the wall part for Gordon Elliott is clearly going to have a massive bearing on this race. He's not going to be sending him over here to finish anywhere other than the top 4, so you're almost betting for nothing as an each way bet when he's 9-2. And his last couple of runs have been all right, to be fair. So you'd think coming in here with some reasonable recent form, where some of these are coming back from a bit of a layoff and they might run in multiple qualifiers hoping to get in there, you could see Gordon sending him in this race, getting him qualified, and potentially putting him to bed until the Potemps in March next year. So he's got an obvious chance, but I don't think he'll care if he wins or not in this race, and that's sort of a bit of a concern. And I know we know that with all Potemps type races, but I think he's probably short enough for that. And as much as he's a freebie each way bet, I think that's all you'll get, your money back probably. The one that I'm going to side with is Gowl Road. He was 6th in the actual Potemps final at Cheltenham like this year, so back end of last season. That was on bad ground, and I remember seeing him straight after the race as well, and he looked exhausted. He was checked by the vet after, and they said that he was suffering from post-race heat stress, so it took a lot out of him, but he still managed to run quite well. He's been dropped a pound for that. That was on soft ground, which I don't think necessarily is his absolute ideal. They sent him over fences for a little bit as well, like in 2022, I think it was. And then he obviously had some sort of setback, which is why we didn't see him until last season. But to do what he did last year, considering he had a setback, I think it would have been sort of anything's a bit of a bonus. But now he's down to a mark of 141. I think he's like ready for a season of doing something quite special. So I can see them getting him qualified and probably winning this, and then they've got the rest of the season to think to themselves, well, if we push him into the 150s, the British stay-in hurdlers aren't really that good. There might be some opportunities for him to pick up some prize money or even land himself a graded race. So I'm full of aspirations for Gowl Road this season. It is a bit of a swing with any horse in a qualifier, but we go back to that Stairs handicap hurdle at Haydock where we talked about fine margin in the late Slate Lane that was in there. That was his comeback run after that long significant layoff. He was 4 for 15, and that was a decent run. I think if he does anywhere near the same as that first time up last season, or what he did here at the festival in March, he will win this race. So 10-1 looks juicy enough. We'll have a go each way on Gowl Road.
10-1 about Gowl Road, but the Woolpack, who is the favourite, just sort of said that he's rightly so, probably about that price in each way play to nothing but the main play Gowl Road for Dave, Matty.
Yeah, I think Dave's made a brilliant case for Gowl Road. Almost swayed me actually. You mentioned obviously just nearly. You mentioned the changes to the Potemps qualifiers. Obviously, I mean the trick before was try and see who wants to win for the immediate prize when you see who wants to win in the final, I suppose. I'll tell you what, it'd be amazing if Botox has wins this off 152, and the Moors get him down to 145, and then just bolt up in a Potemps. And I'd have so much respect for them, but we can only dream. I do think Zen Knights is a good bet, 6-1. You can get around the time I record him. Just not looked back since he got up to 3 miles, has he? 3 from 3. Former flat racer, 90 rated. And Jeremy was third to Taylor the Name on Hurdle's debut, and they actually got a ban. Well, they all involved got a ban and a fine under the count of being a non-trier. And I watched the race back the other day, and you see so many worse rides day in, day out. And then it was rightfully overturned, but there was a glimmer of hope there that you kind of thought this might have something about him. And then, as I say, since he's gone to 3 miles, he's just not looked back at all. And I think he is very progressive type. It's by out the King's Best Mare, sorry. It was a side responsible for Workforce. And it's a damn side of some quite hardy types like Echoes and Rain. The record was fresh, doesn't fill with much confidence. Neither does Lucy Wadham's record, when her horse is fresh. But she did have that mare pretending run fresh last week, wasn't it? So there might be some optimism that she's got a string quite forward this time of year. She's got 29% strike rate in non-course handicap hurdles, in course non-handicap hurdles. Course handicap hurdles, it's one of those ones. Course handicap hurdles over the last 5 seasons. So I think that the fact they bring him here suggests they're quite confident and can go well off a very low weight.
Okay, so like that angle, a lot, like say, a nice low weight then, well, not so nice then for the jockey, but nice low weight to go at as well. Right, 3 more races left on our schedule. Now, we've got 2 more from Newbury, though. Well, we're welcoming in Newbury for the first time. The 310 at Newbury is a Group 3 Horace Hill Stakes, 2-year-olds over 7 furlongs. Matty, back to you for this one. 5-2 the field for these 2-year-olds.
Yeah, it's not what you call a brilliant race, is it, at this time of year? But there is one, Afentico, who I mentioned earlier, ties in with Detain. Was second to Detain at Kempton a few starts ago, giving him £5. And it was also ahead of Silver Peak, giving him £4 in that race. And that was only beaten 5 lengths by Delacroix off levels last time out. So there is 2 bits of form there to suggest that Afentico wouldn't be entirely out of place in the Group 1 at the Futurity. And also horses who ran over a mile last time out. 3 of the last 10 winners who ran over a mile last time out. Dropping in trip, won this race, won the Horace Hill. So I think Afentico being the only one there, dropping back in trip, stamina to board, going from the front. I think he'll outrun his odds for Paul and Oliver Cole.
20-1 shot as well for a horse that's got a good strike rate and good form figures to his name as well. Dave.
Yeah, quite like that from Matty, to be fair, because this is like, there's a couple of nice races we're covering from Newbury, and it's like we've gone left school and we've gone out for a day trip somewhere for the afternoon. A couple of Group 3s, right? And I know what Matty's saying about this in terms of the depth and the class that this race is, and it's slightly frustrating because of the weather that we've had for a while. Like, Newbury's got a precautionary inspection tomorrow morning for Friday's card. I'm sure it'll pass, but it's just that it's bad ground. So as much as there's lots of dry forecast, it is going to be testing ground, and that changes the complexion of the race in my head quite a bit, which is always something that just makes a massive red flag. I feel like I should just stay away from it from a betting perspective, because the long story short is Benevento, I made a case for Bolognese a couple of weeks back, who was just a bit too free early on, did run okay, but still got beat, didn't it? Didn't do the Benevento form that much good. But I touched on Benevento as a particularly decent looking prospect, and I think he doesn't want bad ground. His action doesn't look like it's anywhere near high. He wants quick ground, and I think that they will probably. Well, I wonder if they should withdraw him, because I don't think he better do himself justice. And you trust that they would do that if the ground would be an issue. But I wonder if they might just run to kind of find out. And he may prove me wrong. So I think he's the best horse in the race, but I couldn't bet him on this ground. Yeroug's a horse that I do love. His run last time in France was pretty good. He was quite keen, and hopefully something in here will better take him along. So you can see why he's favourite, because on these conditions and everything, the makeup of the race, it's probably going to suit him a lot more than others. But it always just feels a little bit, I don't know, wrong to be betting something, even though you know it's not probably the best horse of the race or the rightful winner of it. So I'll sit this one out, but I think Benevento is going to be a real interesting one for the future, and I just hope they do the best by him in this race. So whatever they do, I'm sure is the right thing. If the ground was to dry up miraculously, which it won't, but if it got anywhere near good to soft, then I think Benevento would be a good bet.
Yeah, Benevento 3-1. Like say, if he runs or doesn't run, then you're just going to have to respect the connection's opinion. Right, back to Cheltenham again for the 3:30, a hurdle race for the 4-year-olds over 2 miles in this one. 6-4 the favourite, Gavin Cromwell with the favourite. 6-1 the field, I should say. Gavin Cromwell with the favourite in this one, Dave. So do you side with them or take them on?
Well, I mean, you've probably got a side with him, and you can make a whole complex case of why, but it doesn't really take that long to do it, to be honest with you. There's not really anything of substance behind him. He's rated 143. The next best in here is 129, which is Gimme 5. But Gimme 5 was about 15 lengths behind Bottler Secret when they met at Fairy House. He was getting £3 that day. He's going to get 8, so he's £5 better off. And I know he's travelled away, and you could say, oh, we'll put a line through that, but meh. Horses that beat horses, didn't they? The big worry with Bottle Secret, though, is the fact that he had blinkers on before. They switched them out, and then he still won, but they switched them off. Then they put him in cheap pieces, and they've retained them, and then they're still retaining them now. It's a bit much for a horse that's only had 6 starts to have tried 2 different types of headgear, considering he's going to be a short price favourite in this, and I think he's a fairly obvious candidate to be winning the race. So I think anything odds against about him is probably worth having a go on. He's better than a coin flip, but he is 6-4 top price, and he is as low as 10 to 11 in other places. So I think if he starts going odds on, say 4 to 6 or something like that, which I can quite happily see happening, you'd probably just leave them alone because there's those little question marks about the headgeary type stuff. But it's interesting as well, I'll just say this before we move on, that Gavin Cromwell obviously had the late Espoir de Lan that would have been much better than this horse as a juvenile, but still they've achieved about the same because Espoir de Lan had that setback before he came over here. There's a really good programme over in Ireland for the 4-year-olds. They've got the Fishery Lane that comes up, then at Christmas they've got the Irish Independent Hurdle, which is 4-year-olds only as well. They're both grade 3s. So you'd think that Bottle Secret would be taking this in and then going for those ones, but he's not really raced on like fast ground before, even though there's no reason to think he wouldn't handle it. I just think if he was that special of a horse, Gavin Cromwell would be holding on to him for one of those grade 3s. He's already won a grade 2, he's already won a grade 3. So while there is prize money to be had here, he's sending a team over. I just question whether he's actually going to be as good as that Cargeese form line looks like. So I think he still wins this, but I think he might be a horse to take on going forward.
Yeah, potentially then. Like you say, you could go and win this and still not be the best that they've got or the best that they're going to be aiming at some of those bigger, more prestigious 4-year-old races. So interesting take there, Matty. What do you think?
I think Bottle Secret will win by 10 lengths and finish 3rd in the champion hurdle this season. I think he's an absolute weapon of an animal. I mean, I know he got beat by Cargeese last time out. But he only made his debut in February, and like he's come from the flat. He's obviously had some issues with blinkers and pieces, as Dave says. But Cargeese, she benefited off the pace collapse that day, didn't she? And I just think this Bottle Secret is an absolute weapon. I'm glad that Dave mentioned Espoir de Lan. Of course, Cromwell won the champion hurdle as a 5-year-old, and I think he'll win this very cosily. Don't want to race like Punchestown on this, and then work back to the champion hurdle. It's like, because what else is going to be in the champion hurdle anyways? You know, Constitution Hill is probably 30% of its turn up. State Man, okay, probably go. Lossy Mouth, no. It's like, who else is going to go?
Sergino will go, won't he?
Well, Sergino only goes if Constitution Hill doesn't go, I'd say. If Constitution Hill doesn't go, then Lossy Mouth goes. It's like, it's so up in the air, and I just think this is such a progressive horse with so much potential. He's by Dragon Pulse out of an American mare, so the ground should be absolutely no issue whatsoever. And also, like, I can't believe his evens. I mean, yeah, everyone knows I'd love taking on a short price favourite, but I mean, he's got to be one of the best best bets in history. Like, he's £5. He's only, give me 5. He's £5 better offering for a 14-length defeat at Fairyhouse. There's not a chance that he'll get close to him again, and none of these are anywhere near good enough to beat him. And I just think he's going to absolutely, if he's A1 and Cromwell's got him ready for this, he'll win cosily. The only, out of respect for myself, because I hate putting up short price favourites, I'll stick to my roots. The only other angle into the race you could play is Ambrade and Facer each way for a Jack Jones. Second to Burdett Road over course and distance last season. And just far too keen and raw to kind of progress for his own good. And I just think that he's from the family Kalashnikov, who was, of course, an excellent hurdle and chaser for him at Murphy. I just think that if he's matured and grown up over the summer, his natural asset will be a speed in this, and he could sneak into the frame and fill the forecast with Cromwell's.
He's a 25-1 shot and Breeden Faster, who, yeah, again, I thought that the each way value lied with. Bottle Secret, just out of interest, is 66-1 currently for the champion hurdle as well. And like you say, you look at the horses that are above him in the betting, how many of those are actually going to turn up there? If he does then go for that, Gavin Cromwell, with the history, as we know, in the race, 66-1 top price I can see for the champion hurdle now. If he goes and wins this well, that could look very, very big. Bullish. I didn't think Dave would be out bullish on one of these shows, and he's been out bullish for once. So great stuff. Right, we sign off then this section at Newbury with the 3:45, the Group 3 St. Simon Stakes, 3-year-olds and over a mile 4 in this one. Matty, are you going to be as bullish in this or not?
No, absolutely not. I mean, this is worse than going from PE to maths, isn't it? This is coming home from a nice holiday and getting off the plane at the airport, and it's just freezing and just disgraceful.
It smells of damp.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I mean, you just can't really be enthusiastic about it, can you? I'll ask it. Dave mentioned the ground earlier. I think the going stick reads 3.3, and it's borderline unraceable at the moment. And you may as well be in swimming pool. And I don't think Alarsi enjoys heavy ground as much as he does good ground. That run last time out, whatever you make of the ride, he had no chance of making the room up anyways. And his record in October, 3rd, 8th, 5th, and a 2nd. I know he's short enough. I know he's probably by far the best horse in the race, but if he does throw in a stinker again, I think there's something to be taking him on with. And I still do think there's a winning God's window. Third in the Futurity last season on heavy ground, and one on debut on heavy ground, one on reappearance on heavy ground, although it was a nothing race. And I've been waiting for him to land one all season. And that run behind Calpanis, who starts in the September state, I think it was, that was a decent effort. I know that it was behind Alarsi last time out. I just think it's not like Gosden kind of persists with a horse like this at this time of year. And I do think that he thinks a lot of him at home. And I just think if Marcon can get him to be prominent early on, ride him aggressively, I just think at a decent odds, he might be the horse that he's always threatened to be.
Yeah, like I say, he has threatened, hasn't he, on multiple occasions, which has never quite materialised, but big price though to go with him. Dave, coming back from a holiday race, who do you like?
Well, sometimes it's quite nice to get home from holiday because I get to cuddle up with my teddy again. And Arzy's like that, isn't he? He's a safety blanket. I know the ground could be a concern from that. The Ascot ride was, I don't want to necessarily say questionable. Obviously, there was an inquiry after it, but I think probably everyone, I guess, made the same sort of view that I had, that Kieran Fallon just got him too far back. And then unfortunately, the type of ride that Al Arzi is, you can't just get at him 3 furlongs from home because he'll stop racing after a furlong if you're trying to do that. So it was bad that he got himself in a bad position, but that's just it. So bad things happen and he made a mistake. We're all human, aren't we? Al Kareem was well bet that day, and tactically he stole a bit of a lead as well. So it all worked in nicely. I just wish Kieran had got after him a little while ago, because then he would have probably not finished very well and Lafayette could have held on for place money. But I'm over that now. If Al Kareem was in this race, because he was entered but not declared, I'd have been happily taking him on with Al Arzi. Thought we would have got a bit more of a price. He's 5-4. He's just odds against the moment, but I suspect by the time this goes out, or by the time people are watching it maybe on Friday, that I think he'll be short odds on as well, because Danielle, the one that gets lots of weight, does not want this type of ground. I mean, Al Arzi's won on soft before. The Ascot ride and run and stuff was on bad enough ground. Like, I know it won't be ideal for him, but it'll be okay. The one that is interesting is Max Vega, that took this 2 years ago on similar ground, beat Hamish by like a short head or a neck or something. I think he was a 22-1 poke that day when it was on heavy ground. But you are obviously taking a punt on him winning this race because Al Arzi throws it in and doesn't do his job. So for the purpose of this, like, Al Arzi will win this. And again, anything odds against, which is still currently available, I think is a fair price. But if he starts to go odds on 4 to 6, that type of stuff, which I think he will do, then he's the type that you would probably just leave alone. And maybe Max Vega could be interesting at a big price. But I feel like Max Vega will just end up being a value loser because Al Arzi will just win this.
I can just hear Andrew Mount, though, for Max Vega. I think he tipped him up, didn't he, when he won at 22-1 in this race a couple of years ago. So I can just hear him. I would be amazed if he's not siding with him in this one. But yeah, Al Arzi, it all depends on what he's going to do in that Group 3 St. Simon's Stakes. Right, Dave, back to you, please. Anything from anywhere else?
No, Aintree on Sunday looks good though, but I haven't gone through the cards yet.
It does. Hopefully the sun doesn't appear and ruin so many of the races like it does every single year on that day at Aintree. Matty, anything from anywhere else?
On the Saturday, yes, the 2:45 at Kelso. Just Gino for Donald McCain on a chasing debut. Well-built son of its Gino, from the family of multiple winning French chaser, who's the Dama Fussein for Patrick Neville. It's a winning point-to-pointer, and he can climb much higher than the mark of 99 of fences with fitness no issue, given his eye-catching run over hurdles last time out. And Hitman wins the odd run.
Oh, okay. Oh, God. Oh, no. You made such a great case to just chuck that one in there.
There's method in the madness. There's method in the madness, but we'll save it for the column.
Make sure to head to the column, because I want to see what method this is then to madness as soon as it has anything to do with Hitman. Right then, Matty, back to you. See if we can continue the madness of your nap. If it's not who I think it is, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I'll let you have Kansas City Star, and I'll have Millforce.
Okay. Oh, damn it. That means I've got to go with him now. I was going to go Wimbledon Hawkeye, to be honest, but no. I'll go Kansas City Star because I haven't actually made the case for Wimbledon Hawkeye. So, yeah, I'll go Kansas City Star for the sake of this. Dave?
Oh, I might have to keep you a second because I want to make sure I get it right. Obviously, it took a while for me to get a nap back up with Calpano. I don't want to throw it away straight after. What is the shortest prize to? No, I'm joking. There's a few that I actually do like the chances of, to be fair. Oh God, this is awkward, isn't it?
You can have Bottled Secret then.
I know. I mean, I kind of do because he will win, but I'm not going to be the guy that puts him up. I tell you what, I'm going to go for fine margin because I get what Matty's saying that they'll be plotting him for Haydock, but I think they've long given up plotting this horse. They've run him in the UK on his 5 last starts, didn't they? They just want to get a win into him. So fine margin or win the novices hurdle.
Worcester and Bangor, they're always part of the plot job. Just ignore that. Right then, that really convincing naps, guys. Nicely done as well in that. But thank you so much for all of your efforts, and thank you to you at home for watching. Enjoy the jumps being back this weekend, and we'll speak to you again next week.